Hi, and welcome back to Spiritual Shenanigans. I am Jose, and this is part 2 of the happiness series. One of the reasons I started this channel is absolutely no process is 1, 2, 3, and then you've got everything figured out. It's always a journey. It always takes a while. Today we're going to be doing part 2, which is all about self-acceptance. And self-acceptance, as you will soon find out, is the foundation of everything. So just a little recap, I'm just going to put it on the graph here. What we're working on in happiness, we're in the first step in self-acceptance. And then the rest of the steps are going to be seen in the following videos, and you'll always be able to get the next video at the end of the video. Okay, so today, self-acceptance, self-love, self-confidence, it sort of all goes into the same bucket. I will let you know before I get started, I am not an expert. I am not a guru. I have not mastered this. I haven't actually mastered any of these steps. But this one, self-acceptance, that's a journey. There's nothing anybody that can tell you that you will flip something overnight. And if you have negative talk to yourself and you've been programmed a certain way, there's no magic solution. So I just want to start with that. I still struggle this with myself, but I'm just going to let you know some things, some aha moments that I discovered along my journey that can maybe help you. So let's just start about self-acceptance and why it's so important to work on self-acceptance. Because what I've found to be true is self-acceptance, what you think of yourself, is actually going to be the foundation that your life is built on. I never really thought about it until much, much later in life, that there's a correlation between what you think of yourself and the things that you attract in your life. We're going to go through that a lot in law of attraction, which is huge, but it has to do a lot with self-acceptance. What you put out there of yourself still comes back. And what I mean by that is when you have a lower view of yourself, you tend to be in a little bit of a frequency vibe that you attract the same thing. So if you think you're stupid, not smart, not good looking, whatever you've been programmed to believe, you'll tend to fit in a box career-wise, salary-wise, that matches that. If you don't think highly of yourself, you will attract somebody that's not so good or talks to you at that level. So if you don't feel great about yourself, you'll attract somebody that also doesn't talk to you well. It'll match your self-talk of yourself, and they will reflect what you're feeling about yourself. Basically, the easiest way to think about it is like a mirror. Whatever you think of yourself is what you're going to get back. So working on what you think of yourself is actually crucial. Not only will you feel better about yourself, but you will then also attract better circumstances. If you think back of when we were little, like toddlers, to understand what we need to do to reprogram yourself, you sort of have to go back and think of like, how did this happen and why do I not have the best opinion of myself? If you think back of when we were kids, our imaginations were wild. We thought we could do anything. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a movie star. I'm going to be a physicist. I'm going to be whatever. We dreamed big. We had big aspirations. We thought it was possible, and the world was ours. And then if you think from now to then, a lot's happened because a lot of us, if you're like me, we've put ourselves in little boxes of what we think is possible, and it's all based on what we think of ourselves. And a lot of us, same with me, like imposter syndrome that comes on when you're trying to do something great. Like myself, I have it now doing these videos. That comes from all of the fake information and programming that you got, where you're not so free to think about, like, if anything was possible, what could I do? Because you're thinking, well, it's just me. And I'm not like other people that have great things and can make good videos and are so smart and they can be physicists and scientists and whatever it is. So when we were little, we just didn't have those limited beliefs. If we didn't have them, where do they come from? I think it comes from a lot of places. One of the main ones for a lot of us is school. So if you went to a typical school that's not Montessori or a different system, if you thought like highly of yourself and then you go into school and then you have to go for that gold star, somebody's going to be smarter than you start getting back your reflections and grades. You're not thinking that you're so smart. There's always a smarter kid. Then you start to figure out pretty early, like, what beautiful is, what is attractive if you're a boy, if you're a girl. I don't have that long hair. I don't have the curly hair. My nose is too big. Oh, I'm not skinny like that girl. For guys, it's I'm not that sporty or whatever it is. So the comparison starts to really set in at a very, very young age. And school encourages it. Like there's always the top 3 people and like, you did well, you're smart. And what rubs me the wrong way about school, and I go to school to talk to kids because I know they're in that system, is that there's only like, 6 to 8 topics in school. So science, geography, math, English, I had French, whatever. So basic topics, and then you have to remember what you were taught. And if you remember what you were taught and put it down the way that they want it, then you are smart. So if you're in that school system and you're not good at those 6 topics, you don't get it. And it's only one way of learning. If you learn a different way, you're going to feel pretty like not smart. You're not going to think highly of yourself, and you might put limited beliefs on you. But meanwhile, you're a genius. You're just like an exceptional baker. You're a wonderful photographer. You're an incredible artist. Or if you're like me, I love connecting with people and communicating, and I never knew what that career path was until now. You have a skill set and you have gifts. It's just you will never discover them in school. So school, I could go on and on. Might do another video about that. But that comparison and fitting into a box where you don't fit in, you're not going to feel great about yourself. Another one is church. Not to ruffle any feathers, but there's certain religions where if you're sitting in church and they're telling you, I went to a church that the priests weren't nice. We were told every day that we were sinners. So there was already that effect. But like, if you do this, you're evil, you're a sinner. If you get divorced, if you're gay, if you're this, if you're that. In certain religions, there's many, many, many rules that go around that religion. And if your whole culture and religion is really important to you, if you fit in one of those categories that are frowned upon, like, for example, if you're a kid, you're gay, or you don't fit in, you start to really think that there's a problem with you. Same with your culture. I know that there's certain things in certain cultures that you need to fit in these to be able to fit into your culture. So it's not just religion and culture. And if you fit out of that, you're not accepted. And if you even told the truth about what your true authentic self, you could get kicked out of your family. So there's a schooling program, there's religious programming, there's cultural programming, there's societal programming, right? What's cool and not cool to express. Oh, and I also forgot your family. Of course, your family. Your parents, your siblings, depending on how progressive or just like strict they are. In your own home, you might not be able to be your true self. Like, you're too loud. Stop saying this, stop saying that. You're too brash. Could you just dress this way, fit in? Would you just stop being like that? So there's also your siblings and your parents and your whole family. So those are the things that start your programming. It's very subconscious, especially if you're really little. And then you start to just like shrink and not feel good about yourself. And then you move away from expressing your true self, because if you express your true self, some bits of it won't be accepted. And then that true authentic self starts to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And then you're fitting into society and you're suppressing a lot of stuff. That initial programming took years, and it eroded at your true self, and it eroded at who you truly are. And then what I find is the probably root cause to a lot of our problems in our lives is the feeling of I am not enough. I'm not enough. if you think of where you're struggling in life, there's always an underlining, like, I don't feel like I could do that, or I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel smart enough. I don't feel pretty enough. I don't feel like I'm the one up for the task to rise up to that. I'm just this little thing. I'm insignificant. What do I know about X? So I'm not good enough is probably the root cause of a lot of things in your life. If you're already on a journey and you're looking at spiritual shenanigans, I have a feeling that you already know this, and you know that our subliminal, our subconscious programming has a lot to do with how you're feeling today. So because you've been programmed for years, and there's a lot more to this, but what's important to do is to realize, like, it's okay to not accept yourself. Like, if you really look at it, like, we're all in the same boat. It happened to all of us. It's not like one of us is here super confident thinking that they're awesome. That's certainly, I don't think, the case. I think we all struggled with this. Every single person, it doesn't matter if they're a movie star or whoever you look up to, has a injured child in them that, pops up sometimes, and they're definitely in there. So it's not really just saying your things like, I'm awesome, I love myself, and everything's going to be okay. You really have to understand where this comes from. So that's what we talked about. And then it comes to reprogramming what you're thinking about yourself. And what I like to think about is remembering. So if you look at the word, I'm going to put it up here, remembering who you really are is putting the pieces back together of your true self, and remembering, putting back together your true authentic self and following that. So it's to remember and then to reprogram. Part of the reprogramming is to realize how awesome you are. You're unique. There's no mistake that you're here on Earth. There were no mistakes in you being here. And if you want to go down the woo path a little bit, of course, it's spiritual shenanigans. I'm going to bring in the woo sometimes. Depending on who you listen to, it's like we have 1 in several trillion chances of being here on Earth, and you're one of them. And what I think is that the universe doesn't make any mistakes. So if you are born, you are here, it is on purpose. There is no mistake at all. You have gifts that you're supposed to express and bring to the world. And I don't think there's any exceptions to that. You're the only one that's like you on Earth. And what are we? We're 8 billion something. I'm not sure we're at 9 billion yet. I think it's 8 point something billion. You're the only you like you. You're the only one that talks like you, thinks like you, acts like you, that puts your thoughts together like you. You're the only one that has opinions like you. You're the only one that comes from your particular background with your particular circumstances and has become this person on your journey where you have something to offer the world. You're completely unique, and you are here to express your gifts and bless the world with who you are. The other thing to think about is how unique you are and that you're meant to be here and why it's so important is if you think of an orchestra. An orchestra is made with many instruments, and sometimes it's like an orchestra of 50, 100, or whatever, and it has a super rich sound, and it makes beautiful music. But if you could think of an orchestra and let's say it just had clarinets, that's all it had. It's a clarinet and another clarinet, and they all sound like each other, and they're all trying to copy each other, and there's just one sound. It doesn't have that rich sound. My point in saying that is you're your own instrument, and you're the player of that instrument that has its own way of playing. And together, that makes a rich sound. So us here in society, what makes us rich is all of us individually sort of playing our own tune, our own song, being our authentic us, and bringing that. And if everybody else, let's say an orchestra, everybody's playing their own thing, it makes a beautiful harmony and a beautiful song. I know that's cheesy, but that's just sort of a way of thinking about it. You didn't come here to copy somebody else. Here's a great quote that illustrates that. I'm going to put it right here. It says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. That's by Oscar Wilde. So just like here where it shows your fingerprint, it's completely original. You're completely original, not like anything else. So don't be a copy of other people and just be yourself. The more authentic you are, the more people relate to that. Flaws and all, like I'm not an expert. I am not a guru, and people will connect to me because you can relate to me. It's not because I'm perfect. I mess up things all the time. I've gone through a lot of crap in my life, and I might not express something the right way, and I might not have the best graphics, but I think people are watching because you can sense that I'm like you. I'm not above anybody. I am just like you, right? So by being my authentic self, I'm connecting, and you can see that example right now. You're connecting to me because I'm just being myself. I'm not pretending to be an expert, and I'm certainly not pretending to be perfect, because absolutely nobody is. So if you let people see your quirks, even your flaws, even your failures, people will love that because they're like, oh, they're not perfect. They're just like me. Being your authentic self doesn't just mean showing the best things of yourself. It's like quirks and all. That's the best thing. That's what I'm watching more now, is just people being themselves. Now that you know that you're unique and awesome just the way you are, a practical thing to look into is the thoughts that you have in your head. What I like to call is your inner roommate. Okay, so there's thoughts going on in there, and how do you talk to yourself? This was a big thing for me. I realized that I had a lot of negative thoughts. Like I'm talking probably well over 70% of my thoughts were negative. I never had any self-confidence. I don't want to talk about it too much, but my whole life I had a parent, my dad, that didn't necessarily say nice things and made fun of me, and especially made fun of my appearance. My whole life, even to this day, when it comes to accepting yourself and thinking that you're beautiful, not comparing yourself to other people, but just accepting how you are and how you look, that took me a while to get there because I used to actually be made fun of. And there's one thing to be made fun of on the schoolyard. It's another thing when you're made fun of by a parent. Just cuts a little deeper. So my entire growing up and when I was a teenager, I always thought my friends were prettier than me. I always thought that they had a lot more to offer. And in class was absolutely terrified to speak up. I was a wallflower. I never wanted to be called in class. I never raised my hand. I thought that people would laugh at what I had to say, and I certainly didn't want to be seen. And here I am now in front of a camera expressing myself, which I was absolutely horrified to do back in the day. I just wanted to let you know that this is where I come from. So I might not be an expert, but I've certainly come a super, super long way. So one of the things that I had to do is to think of what I'm thinking. If I had some of those thoughts in there from maybe even childhood, I'm not sure, that weren't positive. You tell yourself things that you would never tell another person. We tend to be way more negative on ourselves than other people. Just notice what you're telling yourself. And if you could make that voice a person and name that person, okay, and pretend that that was a roommate, make them real and they're talking to you like that. You're so stupid. What do you know? Oh my God, you look terrible. Whatever you tell yourself, you wouldn't let another person talk to you like that. Okay, so think of it as your inner roommate. What is it you're telling yourself? So that's the first step, is to observe, what are you saying to yourself, okay? And then start telling yourself better things. And I've heard all these things, fake it till you make it, just tell yourself positive affirmations. There's a lot of truth to that. You just have to start somewhere. And yes, at the beginning, you're not necessarily going to feel it, but it's just a start where you start telling yourself, like, I accept myself. Or better yet, if you go in the mirror, if you really don't accept yourself, this sounds easy and it's not. You're going to go to the mirror and you're just going to look at yourself right in the eyes and say, I love you. You can even say your name. Jose, I love you. Now, two things. One, if you've never been great to yourself, it's going to feel weird. Extra weird if you've never even had a human tell you that they love you, because some of your childhoods, I know you don't always have the best parents. So just telling yourself positive things. Here are some examples of some things that you can tell yourself. And this is going to be a slow process. You need to be easy about this. Just start being kind to yourself in general. Just start loving yourself. Start being easy about this. Start giving yourself a break and treat yourself like you would treat another person. So here are some affirmations. Like I said, this isn't a simple solution. This is just some affirmations that is a good head start. One, realizing what you're telling yourself now, and then saying some of these affirmations to replace some of the stuff that you're telling yourself. Again, this is a process. This will take time. Here's an example of a few things that I've used over the years. And again, please make sure that you replace this with words that mean something to you. One of the biggest ones and the easiest ones to do and say over and over and over again is I am enough. I am enough. So when you are really uncertain about yourself and you have really negative things, just saying I am enough can certainly help. Here are just a few examples of other ones. I love and accept myself just as I am. I choose to feel good about myself. I am worthy. Good things happen to me. And again, I love and accept myself just as I am. So these are always better in a meditation. I did a meditation for self-acceptance for kids. And when you hear another person telling it to you, it's really powerful, especially when you can't say it to yourself at the beginning. I will create a self-acceptance meditation for adults eventually. It's not there yet, but look for it. It will be posted at some point. Here's a great quote that pretty much summarizes everything we talked about today. This is a great one. I'm going to read it here and put on the screen for you. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. That's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. So this is it. If you can get this, this is one of the major keys to happiness. In a world where you're going to be bombarded, where everybody and everything is going to tell you what you should think of yourself, your greatest accomplishment in life is going to be being yourself. If you can be yourself in a world today, that is success to me. So be yourself, love yourself, accept yourself, always be kind to yourself. And thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful, and I wish you all the best. Much love. Thank you.